You're meeting with Larry Kudlow, the director of the NEC, a little bit later on. Maros, what will you ask him for?
At first, I came, I think, with a very good message, because I think yesterday event was really a historic one. We clearly show how the EU and the US could cooperate together and how United States LNG export can help energy security in Europe, and that we have rather big appetite for the American LNG. So that agreement which we had achieved last year between President Trump and President of the European Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker, is being fulfilled. We are importing now 272% plus of the American LNG to the EU. We delivered also on the soya beans, where the American exports soared by more than 115%. And we are cooperating, I think very well on our discussion on how to improve the relationship with China. So I think that this would be the first three issues I would mention to Larry Kudlow. And of course, I would plead for the continuous negotiation discussion so we can resolve in such a constructive manner also other issues which are on the table.
Well, China decided to raise tariffs on LNG imports from the US. How does that help you and your bargaining power when striking up contracts with the United States for LNG?
Yesterday, when we discussed this also on the board of Air Force One, I think it was quite clear that we have huge import capacity for LNG. I mean, I would use the European metrics for that. We can already today import more than 210 billion cubic meters, and we have currently every EU member state who can get access to the LNG thanks to the improved network of our pipelines and terminals we built over the last few years. So we are, I think, very good market destination for the US LNG, and I was quite impressed to learn that the new facility, which was open yesterday, is already sold out with the LNG production for the next 20 years. So that's something what I think just shows how big potential our economies have and how compatible our energy projects are, and therefore I hope that we would both profit from that new possibility how to improve our transatlantic relationship.
I don't want you to tread on Cecilia Malmström's toes, but Bloomberg has just been reporting that we are not going to see the president imposing auto tariffs on the European Union. I'm sure that is being greeted as great news back in Brussels. Did you get the impression, as you were travelling on Air Force One, that the president wants to do some sort of deal with Europe? What was your impression as to what the White House wants from Europe right now?
I think, and I have to say that I very much appreciated the generosity and warm welcome I received from the President Trump, because we really spent quite some time on Air Force One, and he was very, very open, and I was part of the deliberation on the Air Force One. And I think what is very clear for him, he's a deal maker. He wants to make a deal, but he also wants to make the deal which should be good for the United States. And I told him that the same on our side. We want to have a good deal on the US side as well, and therefore I think that we should talk, we should negotiate, and we are ready to go for zero industry tariffs in the future. And that's what our trade delegation was proposing today here in the Washington, D.C. And for me, of course, it would be very interesting to listen the perspective and the assessment from Larry Kudlow, because I think we are close partners and we have a biggest trade relationship on this planet. So I think we should invest as much as possible into the negotiations so we can get a good deal for both sides, and I think that partners like US and EU can achieve that.
One of the things that the president has had an issue in the past with, and that is the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. The gas, the LNG that's going to be coming out of the plant that you toured yesterday will be competing in some ways with Nord Stream 2. What did the president have to say about Nord Stream 2? Did the issue come up? Is he still against it? What's going on?
I think we didn't touch upon it yesterday with the president, but I can tell you that we discussed it in a great detail with the Deputy Secretary of Energy, Brouillet. We discussed it with Secretary Perry when he was recently in Brussels, and I explained the new legislation we just passed in Europe on which is called Amendment to our Gas Directive, which applies to all pipelines, and it would apply eventually to the to the Nord Stream 2 if the construction would continue. And it means that all European laws on unbundling, on transparent tariff setting, on transparent operations are applicable to all pipelines, including the pipelines which have the part in the subsea in a subsea territory which belongs to the European states, in this case to Germany, of the European Union. So I think that it's quite clear that situation has changed and that competition on the European market is much higher and energy security is better. But we still pursue that goal to have more suppliers, to get the gas from different destinations, because we want to avoid the crises as we had in 2009, which is vividly remembered in my country, in Slovakia, because then we had to really adopt tough decisions to hold the industry, close down the schools so we can heat up the households and hospitals. And we definitely don't want this to happen again, and therefore we are working so hard on energy security and diversification of supply.
Maros, one of your responsibilities is to establish this European Energy Union. How do you do that, though, without getting into problems with counterparts elsewhere in the European Commission and with, for example, individuals in different governments across Europe on their stances geopolitically, for example? Just for argument's sake, let's take Iran.
Yeah, I think that why I think we've been so successful in introducing this energy union concept was the fact that we had strong support from our member states from the beginning. We've been dealing with energy security, with climate change, and in a way that we managed to combine this green sustainable transformation with industrial competitiveness. We've been working very hard on the smart, clean mobility, and also on the fact that we need to use more and more research and innovation in this energy transition. And for that concept, we got big support from our member states. And I have to say that all the legislative proposals, which some of them have deep transformational impact on how we power, distribute, and consume energy, been supported in most cases unanimously. So this is, I think, very, very good news. And of course, for the European Union and for the Commission, what is important to create legislative framework, to make sure that our infrastructure is up to speed, and also to enforce that the global competition on European market works. And here we have a consensus, and this is how we approach our member states, and very much value their continuous support.
US LNG project developers, I'm thinking Kinder Morgan, Sempra and so on, they could just sell their LNG on the spot market. What can you do to convince them that it would be worth selling to Europe for a particular price?
Because we are good consumers. we are the
Lots of
biggest,
good consumers out there.
We are the biggest importers of the gas, and I was quite impressed to learn yesterday. I have to admit that the production of the Sempra facility is already sold out, and there are quite a few European consumers. We are building new terminals in Germany, in Croatia, and Krk in Greece, and we will be having, I think, biggest LNG import capacity in the world. So we are clearly, I would say, the good destination for American exporters, and we pay on time, we pay in hard currency, and I think we are transatlantic allies. So I think all these are good preconditions for having strong business relationship also in this field.
Mr. Sefcovic, one final quick question. We're about to have European Union elections. That means we're going to see a change at the Commission. Is there any particular portfolio, if asked, that you think you would be best suited to?
Of course, this would very much depend on the result of European elections. Then, of course, the government have to nominate the commissioners. I hope I would be nominated by the government of Slovakia. And then it's up to the new president to decide who gets what portfolio. If I could work in the area of industrial policy, if I could work in the area of this new economy, I would be delighted, because I believe that the next decade would be decisive on how our economies would manage all these economic megatrends, starting from supercomputing down to robotization, or I would say the clean tech, and that's the area where I'd love to work.